Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vandal Drummond, and I want it to be known that there is a major power outage with Time Warner, and my internet is down. It is out. I keep pushing the try again button, and all I get is a blank screen except for the word server not found. I am trying to look at the lyrics to Barriquero, but to no avail. Along with taking the internet with them, Time Warner has confiscated part of my soul. And once great offerings of periquitos and fog fruit herb just to give me back a piece of my soul, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vandal Drummond, and I am joined by Alfredo Esparza, who has a complete soul right now because he has the internet. It is shining on him like neon lights in Vegas. He is alive, and I am a cyber zombie for the moment, waiting to get my life's blood back restored to me. So how you doing, Alfredo?
Maybe you should dress up in your caveman Wellington outfit.
That would be... Hey, you just completed the next incredibly strange gimmick. Caveman Wellington is ready to be a partial zombie.
Yeah, you're without cable and internet, right? And I don't know what else.
Yes, this is obscene, I must say. I mean, to make up for it, I'm turning on every appliance in my house. I'm turning on CD players. I'm turning on every light in the house. No, I'm not turning on the stove or anything like that. That would be silly. That would be silly if I did that. But yeah, this light is shining like, an entire city.
You shouldn't worry too much. There's nothing on TV anyways today. So
this is true. The timing is actually not bad because something rare happened in the past week. For the several people who listen to our show regularly, we know that the running joke is Vandal Drummond rarely watches any wrestling.
Yeah.
So each show we announce, we talk about, what do we announce? We describe the shows that I did not watch.
Wait, you know what? Before you continue, you're not watching TNA. Oh, my God, you're not watching TNA today.
Wait, you know what? Maybe Time Warner has given me more soul. Oh, wow. I apologize to Time Warner because maybe they're trying to enhance my soul by taking away the most insipid wrestling entertainment out there.
Well, you watched wrestling this past weekend, so.
I watched several things. I watched the first 3 matches from AAA.
Have you watched the full show of AAA? I'm not saying...
I have not. I came close to watching the whole thing today. I really enjoyed the first 3 matches. I didn't watch, the main events. Now, as I recall, AAA, sometimes the main events are the ones that are least impressive.
Yeah, you just skip that. You can watch the opener, and that's pretty much it on AAA.
Yeah, this opener had Mini Psychosis and Mini Hysteria against Mascarita Divina and Octagoncito, and I just loved that match.
Yeah, Octagoncito's been really good this year.
I really like him. Like I said, the 3 matches I watched, I enjoyed all of them, but one of the things I really enjoyed about the Minis match was they do really wonderful high spots, really wonderful topes, and they seem totally in control. They're not trying to do breakneck moves. They're not trying to dive out of the rafters or, do these crazy-ass bumps. They do just great-looking high spots. I know mat work is pretty much dead in AAA today. But the stuff they did was just all on target. And I know, I'm old-fashioned, I know, but I like seeing wrestlers taking care of each other, protecting each other. And they were very entertaining at the same time.
Yeah. What was the second match?
The second match were Mari and Fabi Apache.
Okay, that was good too.
Love them. God, I love them. I always have loved them. But it was fun seeing them in this, there were the two, what's that?
The Japanese girls? Or?
Yes, Oyuki and I think it's Kayuka.
Uh-huh.
I really enjoyed that. That kind of brought me back almost to childhood, seeing a really good heel team and a really good babyface team, almost to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And the older I get, the more I love extreme baby faces and extreme heels. Of course, the more extreme heel in this match was the referee. But just very good old-fashioned tag team wrestling. Third match I saw was Degness, Chris Stone.
That's the one I watched too.
Yes, Billy Boy against Aerostar, Extreme Tiger, and Jack Evans. And, I see Jack Evans kind of do the same. Well, I don't know if I should say the same thing. I haven't not watched him frequently enough. But you see the same crazy flying moves and really unorthodox bumps, and I never get tired of him doing those.
I know, seriously. He's like him and Teddy Hart are probably the only two people I can like if they're going to do something that's going to, where they're going to basically, they look like they're going to die, you just know you're,
Yes. It's so true. It's so true. And every review I've heard says that Jack Evans is one of those guys. I remember Conan described him as Gumby on Brian Alvarez's show.
Yeah.
He takes these crazy bumps, and he just is so flexible, they don't seem to faze him.
Whereas Extreme Tiger basically takes like the weirdest, he does the weirdest high spots and always misses his one high spot during the match. For some reason.
Yeah, it's so true. The extreme is a key word in that name, Extreme Tiger.
It's so funny when you look at what Aerostar is doing, basically trying to kill himself to move up the card, and then he doesn't miss them, but he does them so dangerous. They're such a high risk. Well,
there's that one he did. Did he do it with Marco Corleone? I'm forgetting, but remember a few months ago he climbed one of those rafters or towers, whatever you call them.
Yeah, it was Kozlov.
Kozlov, you're right. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, I'd rather stay on the bottom of the card. I'd rather stay in that third ring of AAA than, get a broken pelvis just, to get bumped up.
It's not like they're going to get more money out of it anyway, so.
Yeah. You're not going to get more money. I don't think you're going to impress people by showing how extreme you are. Otherwise so many other people would already be bumped up the card.
Yeah. What did you think of the Rudo team?
I dug the Rudos team quite a bit.
Billy Boy. Doesn't he remind you of somebody? Who does he remind you of?
Billy Boy?
Yeah, with the beard and everything.
I'm drawing a blank, my friend.
Mocho Kota.
Oh, I didn't think of that, but you've got a very good call there.
Yeah, Rob and everybody else has been mentioning that.
I can see that now that you say that. Yeah, that makes a lot. I wouldn't have guessed it myself, but Mocho Kota is one of those guys who I think even after he's kind of washed up technically was still just a kick-ass heel.
The only thing now you better worry about is fingers, though. Living in Mexico nowadays is pretty dangerous.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah.
This is very true. There's one part of that match where I remember Jack Evans did a comeback where he laid out two of the Rudos, I think it was with like a double clothesline.
Uh-huh. Then
Aerostar just does this beautiful body press. Then Extreme Tiger gets, I think it was Billy Boy in a backbreaker and then slammed him onto the other two Rudos. And I thought that would have been the perfect way to wind up the match.
Mm-hmm.
It went a little longer and it wasn't bad, but I thought that would have been a beautiful finishing move. I thought they should have ended it there.
Still a good match, though.
It's still a very good match. That's just me being picky, and it's my inner Booker, bitching and whining.
Well, then after that, I think it was the Perros del Mal versus Oz and all those guys, wasn't it? Something like that?
See, that's where I left off.
You gave up, huh?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I had so much patience this week.
Yeah.
I had so much patience this week. I was going to watch the whole thing, but everyday life, errands, and all that stuff got in the way, so I just didn't have enough time to watch it all. And plus, I wanted to get some of Raw in, which I heard was very good.
I tend to multitask while I'm watching, since I have a lot of other stuff I do. and I have to watch. So I usually will watch parts of it, and then if I see it's like cibernetico or something like that, it's like, okay, I'm not going to watch that. I'll just do this while that's going on. And then there's so many wrestling shows on at the same time too. So because right after that one is what's that show called? The CMLL show right afterwards. So
not the Wrasslin one.
No, the other one, the one on Channel 57. The 1 hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I do get that one. I forget.
Yeah, but it's always a replay too. Which always upsets me. Like, it's a replay. And you know, I'm all excited about watching something, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, another replay, great. Why don't you guys just tell us it's a replay before we sit around waiting for it?
In fact, speaking of enjoyable wrestling TV, just for the Southern California folk here who, if they don't have enough wrestling already on cable TV and want something new, we should bring up the show we've been talking about lately that's actually taped out of here in L.A. that airs on... What's that?
There's two, actually.
This is true, actually.
The NWA show and...
NWA Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the other one that I think almost nobody knows about because all the TV guides, at least on Time Warner, show the time as a paid advertisement.
Yeah.
But it's a local Lucha Libre promotion, I believe run by Enrique Medina.
Yeah.
And it airs, is it midnight on Saturday nights?
Yes.
That's actually a really enjoyable show.
Are you still watching it, or did you skip it already?
Yes, I am.
You gave up on it already?
No, and I'll tell you what I enjoy about it. And again, you know, this is my eccentricities where I just love ambiance. Is it reminds me so much of an old school TV taping, TV taping specifically in a TV studio. And this isn't a TV studio, but it's just a small place that seats maybe, it probably seats only 50 people or so.
It's been packed. The last 2-3 shows have been packed.
Yes.
The only bad thing is we don't know like the dates of when these shows happen.
Exactly. I have no idea if they were last week or 3 months ago.
The last time I ever got a result out of them was when Scott was wrestling there, Capitan Calico. That was the last time I got a result from them. That was like months ago.
Oh, wow.
And he wrestled one of I think it was the first or second show, I think. And I'm guessing that must have been back when he was still there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been showing a lot of locals guys on that show, too, like not only the Lucha guys, like a lot of the other guys from other parts of the area.
Oh, I know of the Lucha guys who've seen Mercurio Jr.
Yeah, he's been on there quite a bit.
The heel that I kind of did called Thunderwolf.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting because the wrestling is anywhere from pretty good to
pretty bad.
Yeah, there's some pretty lame wrestling in there. But I enjoy the show.
I was telling you this the last time we were talking about it, how Enrique Medina will bring up when they miss a spot, like, oh, he missed that spot, you know. he just brings it up like, oh, you know, that guy just blew a leg drop. He totally missed them. But it's like, I think that's what I like about it, the announcing, because they don't like. And then I don't know if you heard the last show. The other guy, Fermin, I think it's Fermin Almeida. He kept messing up every like couple of times, and Enrique Medina kept like correcting him, like, "Come on, what's wrong with you today?" I love it. It was so funny. It's like, but you know, yeah, the matches. It's anywhere between. I mean, because it's basic. The highest thing I could say is it's like good, basically like 3 stars, less than 3 stars probably. Yes. If you really want to go into the star rating, it's less than 3 stars. Yeah. And everything else is kind of, you know. Yeah, it's not this off-the-wall wrestling, this off-the-charts, but I just dig the show. It feels like you're watching Memphis wrestling meets Lucha Libre. Yeah. And then, you know, that ring is kind of weird, too. In what way? I don't know. It seems kind of loose, like, I don't know. It seems kind of like they did, like, I don't know, soft. Actually, the ropes look a little loose, especially for Lucha. Well, you know, the if you look at the bottom, the ring, the mat, it looks kind of like slippery.
It appears that way. I don't know if it is. I think it just kind of has an unusual looking surface.
Yeah, it just seems really weird. I watched the guy, whoever rents it out, call me out on that or something. I don't know. Okay.
They know what your internet was down.
Yeah, they're gonna be upset about it. Like, oh yeah, why are you ripping on me? Have you been on SoCal Uncensored? Everybody gets upset on that site.
Yeah. Those people need to get like some muscle relaxants or some cannabis or something to just kind of chill.
Yeah, dude.
Same with a lot of message boards. America needs to mellow out big time.
And it just amazes me how they don't even talk about wrestling anymore. It's always just about them like complaining about something. Just moaning about like, oh, did you watch NWA Hollywood? And then it's like all this stuff about how bad it is, and then how boring it is, and or some wrestler will get upset about somebody else's show or something. Like, fuck, man.
And if it's so bad and so boring, watch something else. They have Hawaii 5 reruns on every night.
I think the only thing they'll like totally talk about is PWG too, which is, it's not the only. There's so many wrestling groups here now, like MPW, PWE.
There are scores. They're everywhere.
Legion, Santino Brothers, all that stuff now. There's so many different wrestling shows now.
Yeah, if you devoted your full attention to it, if you wanted to do a wrestling newsletter on Southern California Pro Wrestling,
you could do it now. You could actually do it now.
You could, yes. It would be. You could cover as much space as the Observer does just on Southern California wrestling.
Because there's so many, and then you could always ask guys. These guys. I've met all these guys. And I don't talk to them or anything, but you could kind of tell they like don't mind telling you what's going on, even if you don't really want to know.
Yes.
Very talkative group of people in the LA wrestling scene.
And all you have to really do is say, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah, and then they'll like start talking about all this. And there's Hit Pro. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different like wrestling promotions.
There's tons.
Lucha Vavoom.
I'm sorry.
Lucha Vavoom.
Lucha Vavoom, which I am very high on.
Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know why they're not doing more of everything else.
Yeah, I would say, to the people who are just kind of, it's one thing to just critique a wrestling show, to say, I like this, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But if you're going crazy because, NWA TV isn't your bag and you think they're doing everything wrong, find something else. There's so much to be entertained by.
Watch PWE.
Yes, that would be my recommendation.
They would. If they saw that, if those guys saw that, they would totally shit on it. Yeah. I'm being honest with it because I even wrote it in one of my reviews. I go, it looks low rent, but it's really a fun show to watch.
I agree. In fact, the low rent, there's a bit of a charm to it because. Yeah. I think they know it's low rent, so they don't try to do a bunch of wacky backstage stuff. They don't try to do all kinds of crazy camera angles. They just have, the basic shot of the whole ring and then one roaming camera.
Yeah.
And the commentators are really competent. In fact, I think if you...
The commentators are really good. The commentators are really good, the announcers.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like they're being histrionic or such. Sounds like they're just, me, my Spanish is very poor.
Uh-huh.
But they, it doesn't sound like they're getting history. That's if I was going to say one thing that I think NWA is weak on is the commentary. Yeah. Sounds like they just really haven't practiced their craft, and one guy's trying too hard to be a heel, and I think even if I was hearing it in a different language, I'd kind of sit back and say, they don't sound like they've had that much experience. Which I get.
I think one of them is that guy who was on that Jamie Kennedy show or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Remember they did like a rap or something?
Oh.
You're like, I never
shows how in touch I am with today.
You're like, I've never seen it. I don't even know who's Jamie Kennedy. You know Jamie Kennedy.
I'm old, man. What can I say? I'm old.
You do know Jamie Kennedy.
No, I do not.
Okay.
Was he Robert Kennedy's lost son?
Let's move on. Well, the one good thing about PW, at least they're showing all these other luchadors that you normally wouldn't see. Like that, what's that guy's name? It's one of the heels that, I can't remember what his name is. It's like a Jimenez or something.
Yeah, well, and, you know, I think if you took the quality of the announcers in PWE, and you took the quality of the wrestling from NWA, mix them together, I think you'd have a complete TV show there.
Yeah. You still wouldn't watch it. You'd skip it.
I would, and you know, I enjoy the NWA TV actually. Like I said, if there's one thing I'd focus on is I think the commentating could be a little more tight. And again, my opinion of...
Do you like the squash matches?
What's that?
Do you like the squash matches, all those, like, short matches where they're...
I like them, yeah, I like it when they keep them short.
Yeah. But
I mean, I remember, I think it was the first show that was actually, you know, taped for TV. There was the Sheik wrestling a guy who's pretty much a jobber. And I would have had that match be just a little more straight out of squash, because the fellow who he was wrestling, I apologize, I don't remember his name. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that he was bad, but when he made comebacks, they looked so green. I mean, there's no fire in his comebacks. He just kind of get up and come back at the Sheik. And it probably would have been better if they just squashed him. And again, when I'm saying I'm being picky about the commentating,
there's a lot of bad commentating anyway, so.
Yeah, no, there's no shortage of that in wrestling.
Yeah.
Believe me. But you know, from what I've heard, I remember it sounded like one of the commentators was, you know, trying to go heel and was calling the other one a moron. And I don't know, I think you have to be pretty well honed, and you know, I know a lot of people bag on Michael Cole and that kind of thing, but I'm kind of digging on his character these days.
Well, I mean, if they're going to turn him heel, that's fine.
Exactly. And he's somebody who's been doing this for a long time. And, you know, while he's no expert at wrestling, I think he, you know, understands how to get a heel over, how to get over the heel. I mean, look, everybody is annoyed at him. I mean, even smart fans are, you know, they don't realize it, but they're marking out for him, for his heelness.
What do you think of CM Punk as an announcer? Don't say anything bad. You know what? You probably shouldn't say anything bad about CM Punk because he wore the T-shirt.
The Colt Cabana T-shirt, yeah.
Yeah, and the guys that shirt comes from the guys that are doing our shirts. So.
Oh, that's what we should bring up here.
Yeah, so we probably shouldn't say anything bad about them.
That's right. You know what? CM Punk was a brilliant commentator.
He was amazing.
Flawless. I recommend that they fire the rest of the Raw and SmackDown commentating crew.
Yeah,
and have CM Punk cover. CM Punk? Did I just say CM Punk?
That's fine.
Yeah, yes, he's going to be CM Punk, like from Midsummer's Night's Dream. And he's going to come to the ring like, you know, with a pan flute and with leaves in his hair. And he'll be reciting soliloquies from Midsummer's Night's Dream from now on. CM Punk, you are flawless. You can do no wrong. You were the greatest announcer of all time because you donned the Colt Cabana T-shirt.
Uh-huh.
And let's talk about that. You have the first design for a Lucha World T-shirt.
Yeah, we got the first one. It should come in by next week. The first batch of shirts, first couple of shirts should come in next week. So we'll have those.
And if
I didn't want to bring it. I didn't want to bring it up until like I was going to get the shirts and I had them in my hands, in my possession. But the guy who does the drawings for me, he let the cat out of the bag. So, you know.
Which is cool by me. I'm really jazzed about it personally.
Yeah, because I remember I told you don't say anything until I actually see the shirts. And then all of a sudden I go on Twitter and it's like, hey, this is the shirt I made for and Alfredo. I'm like, oh, great.
I know. It's so funny because I was surprised because I've never known you to be the type who were so excited that you had to bring up something that evening.
Well, because I never do. Like even the covers. Like I have the November cover for Lucha World, and I still haven't released it. And I kind of told him don't do it till I actually finish writing. And then he did that, and I was like, okay. But that was fine. I mean, it's not that I don't get upset about that sort of stuff, anyways.
That's cool, and it is a pretty cool design, and it's pretty cool sharing with people. If you all go to either my account or Fredo's Facebook account or our Slammin Stan accounts, either of the two. For those of you who don't know, Slammin Stan are now Los Gemelos Diablo. There are two.
Not only is there page, there's a friend. You can now friend Slammin Stan.
That's right. You can friend Slammin Stan. Slammin Stan wants you to be their friend.
Yeah. If you don't friend him, well, he doesn't care.
Yeah, you can like one and you can friend the other.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation, ladies and gentlemen, especially for me and Fredo.
Or you could dislike one and friend the other, or you could unfriend and like the other.
Yeah.
But
you can go on there and you can see the image that is going to be on the first LuchaWorld.com T-shirt, the image that bears the Convict, Fisico Nuclear, Kung Fu Frankenstein, and Lucky Pierre. I am so excited that Lucky Pierre is on a T-shirt.
It's a great looking shirt too, so I really liked it. I was really impressed with it. Well, I'm always impressed with what he does, so I can't really say it's not the first time he's impressed me. So
yeah, I've really enjoyed the artwork he's done on the Lucha World site over the past couple of months. I especially loved the La Parka at the dinner table.
Yeah, the next one, the November issue, the cover is awesome.
Oh, really? Wow.
I thought about just putting the cover up and then writing it later, and I think I might have to do that because I've been really busy this past couple of weeks. So I don't know. You tell me, Kurt.
Okay. I'll decide. I'm going to decide upon indecision.
You'll let me decide then.
Yeah.
Well, we got to talk about we got to bring it down a bit because we got to talk about death and wrestling this week.
There have been several major deaths. A couple. One person who left us. I'm sorry?
Is it only two? Because I only counted two.
There's actually three. One was somebody who was just kind of, I think, ankle deep in the wrestling business.
Uh-huh.
The guy who wrestled for Lucha Libre USA.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Solid. Yeah, man. Yeah,
yes.
We talk about Solid.
Yes.
You're like, I don't know.
Well, I think it's because the two that came to our minds were obviously Kantaro Hoshino and Hijo de Cien Caras.
Well, the weird thing is Solid also got murdered, just like Hijo de Cien Caras. So
this is true.
I think it's the first time we've had two murders within a week.
That's true, isn't it? Both shootings.
It's been a week, right, or is it 2 weeks? 1 week or 2 weeks?
It's been the last week. In the case of Solid, he was a bouncer at a club, and he and some other bouncers had to eject some people for being, too unruly. And one of them came back and shot him. I think shot one of the other bouncers, but that bouncer survived. And in the case of Hijo de Cien Caras, it sounds like at this point they think it might have been some sort of a love triangle, that he was sitting in a parked car with a woman who, I don't know if he was involved with her or not, but apparently it sounds like they think the shooter thought the two of them were involved and so shot each of them once in the head and once in the neck, which, I don't know anything about law, but that sounds almost like a contract killing.
Yeah, that kind of sounds
I might be wrong, but...
Well, Mexico, everything's so fucked up right now.
It sounds like a scary... and apparently they were parked in a very nice area.
I think he was in it practically close to his house, by his house or at his house. So
wow.
It's like, that's already crossing the line. And so, they're going to kill you. They're going to kill you anyway. So, but
yeah, it's just a very sobering thought that when you're there in Mexico, the odds are a little higher.
Yeah, I guess LA Park is basically not taking the rest of the month off to spend time with his family.
Oh, man.
He's pretty crushed about this.
And it must be, and I mean, significantly younger than LA Park. It must, I mean, it's hard enough losing a family member to violence, but when somebody's that much younger than you, I can only imagine just.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah,
very sad news to hear.
And then there's Kantaro Hoshino also.
Who I think
we're more familiar with him because.
Yeah, of these three men, Kantaro Hoshino is somebody I was, I wouldn't say I followed his career all throughout the years, but I was quite familiar with him, and I didn't realize until I read his obituary that I actually saw him wrestle in L.A. in 1973 when he was wrestled as Yamamoto.
Wow.
That tripped me out. If you asked me who was Yamamoto, I would have maybe named half a dozen other Japanese wrestlers before guessing it was Kantaro Hoshino.
Well, did he wear a mask or was it just...
No mask. What it was he played that stereotypical Japanese villain with, the knee-high tights.
Yeah, throw salt in it.
Yeah, he threw salt. In fact, what I remember best about him is I remember on Channel 13, Raul Mata beat Dr. Death for the Beat the Champ title. I even remember Raul Mata taking a necktie and strangling Dr. Death at some point in the match with it. Don't know why I remember that. It's just, you didn't see that all the time back then.
So how do you not remember that? Kurt, how do you not remember that?
Does he realize if he did that in WWE, he would have been fired?
Yeah, oh, that's true.
But it was funny because you didn't see that every week, and to see a baby face wrap a necktie around somebody's throat was pretty amusing. But the following week, he had his first title defense against Yamamoto, and it looked like Raul Mata was about to, get the victory, and out of nowhere, the salt is thrown into Raul Mata's eyes, and Yamamoto pins him, and, has that diabolical smile like, I am the champion. And then the following week, Yamamoto defended against Dwayne Allen, who... it was a wrestler who had a very short wrestling career, but before that was a member of the LA Rams. And so they gave him, quite a publicity rub for being on the Rams.
Was he good with the Rams?
What's that?
Was he good or?
Oh, he is terrible as a wrestler. I mean,
as a Ram. I'm asking you about the football.
You know how I am about football. You could ask me, who was a better football player, Peyton Manning or Charles Barkley? And I'd nod like a dork and say, I don't know, I think they're both as good. That's how much I know about sports. Although I know enough to make an ironic crack like that.
Charles Barkley's pretty well known now, so he's known outside of.
Oh, but that's how. Well, this is how much I know about sports. There's a gal at work who will call me Kurt Rambis, and it's been an ongoing thing for a while. And then I finally said, yeah, I think I know who he is, some kind of sports star. And she just looked at me like. She asked another woman at work, do you know who Kurt Rambis is? And she goes, of course I do. Yeah. And I thought he was a football player.
Oh, my God, Kurt, come on.
Yeah, and then they start laughing hysterically and saying, no, he's a basketball player. And then I asked the second stupid question, saying, oh, yeah, what team's he on?
Oh, God.
And they're saying, he hasn't played in years. And I just sat there like, okay.
That sounds like our conversations when it goes into sports. And we're
exactly.
Midway through it, like, okay.
Now, Dwayne Allen, of course, when he became a wrestler, they made him out to be like the greatest LA Ram ever to put a helmet on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but basically what his matches would consist of was, the heel would do something to him, would work him over, and then they'd screw up and make a bad move, and then he would get down, and tackle, position and, tackle them and pin them.
Uh-huh.
And so when he wrestled Yamamoto for Yamamoto's first title defense, the match was, I don't know if it was even 20 seconds, because all it consisted of was Yamamoto reaching into his trunks, throwing the salt at Dwayne Allen, who ducks, and then did the football tackle and pinned him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was, and it got a huge pop, and I was like 10 years old, so I thought it was cool too. And then his career just, I think his last match was in the 1974 Battle Royal, and he got stretchered out.
Which there's a lot of football players who kind of didn't last that long in wrestling, though.
Like
For every Ernie Ladd, there's like a couple of guys who didn't really stick around too long.
It's very true. Very true.
Like
well, and it's funny how they had this one move he could do where he would tackle the guys.
Uh-huh. Well, they all do that, though.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But, of course, they gave him, of course he got into the football stance, like the hut,
Yeah, like Jim Duggan used to do.
But that goes back as far back as to Wayne Munn, who was a college football star in the early 30s or late 20s.
Uh-huh.
Damn, I used to know my wrestling history so well. But I remember reading an old newspaper story about him, and they were hyping him up, saying this young football star, and how he cleverly has used this new hold called the body slam. And apparently in each match he would use this body slam, which is now second nature to a wrestler. But apparently at the time it sounds like a move. I doubt he's probably the very first person to use it, but they were making it sound like he invented this move that would just, destroy the guys and knock the wind out of them, called the body slam. And I assume that was so they could make his matches very short and very sweet. And, there were several other wrestlers like that who either they didn't have it or they were very green and they had to make their matches quick. So they would hype them as not being paid by the hour, or
I remember that.
Yes, yeah. Or the other thing is they're very well known for their quick wins.
Yeah, and it was really because they sucked and they wanted them out of the ring.
Yeah, exactly. Either they sucked or they were just too green to wrestle a full match.
Yeah, unless they were in there with like somebody really good, like
somebody who could carry the match,
Terry Taylor or something like that.
Yes.
I'm talking about you're like 10 years behind, like. You're 10 years, 1973, and I'm talking about 1983 wrestling. It was like we're totally like in different gaps.
Yeah, exactly. There's a slight generation gap with us.
Yeah. So what was Hoshino in L.A. for a long time, or just?
No, just for a little while in 1973, and probably just a few months. But where I remember him best from is in 1983 was when I got my first VCR recorder. And, back then, Japanese tapes were not that easy to come by. You had to find a source. I would get them from either Dave Meltzer or from Norman Dooley. And, it's so funny. It's funny looking at today where I can go on the Internet and you can go onto YouTube and just type almost any wrestler's name and you'll find something.
You'll find one match with them on it.
Yeah, but back then, it's like just getting a tape from Japan with a match with Tiger Mask was like,
it was like Christmas. It was like Christmas. Like you would get a tape.
Oh, it was. It was. I would.
And how long would it take them to send it to you too?
That's the funny thing is I would usually send them a blank tape, and they would send it back to me. And I would just be waiting. Or if I had to, send them some money, I had to send them a check. There was no PayPal back then, God damn it. And it probably only took 4 days to get the tape back, but it felt like 4 weeks.
Yeah. It's not
and of course, if it was somebody who traded with a lot of people, sometimes it would take them a while to get it taped for you.
It wasn't like Feinstein, like taking 6 weeks to send you something, huh?
What's that?
It's not like our video. Sending you like 6 weeks. You're still waiting.
No. The only thing that kept things slow were the technology in itself. But I remember when those tapes would come to my house, I would be watching them over and over again. I remember I watched the Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask match countless times. Mm-hmm. And then when friends would come over who had never seen Japanese wrestling, I'd show it to them, and then they would want to watch it countless times. I think at some point I knew that match by heart. Yeah. That was a match where there were double count-outs twice, and they would restart the match, and at some point Dynamite Kid goes after the referee with a broken bottle. Awesome match. But one of the matches that I watched was Tiger Mask and Kantaro Hoshino against Abdullah Tamba and Chris Adams. Uh-huh. And, yeah, Kantaro... I'm sorry?
Tamba from Mexico, right? Tamba from Mexico?
Yes, Abdullah Tamba from Mexico. It was slightly chilling. I was watching it on YouTube last week after I heard about Hoshino passing away. Uh-huh. And it dawned on me, wow, Tiger Mask is the only one of those four who's still around.
You know, it's so amazing. So many guys have died that you kind of forget that some of them are dead.
Yes.
Saying that right now, I was like, really? I thought Chris Adams was alive, and I'm like, oh shit, no, he got shot down, wasn't he? Like,
he was shot sadly by his best friend. Yeah, they got into some sort of tussle or something.
Yeah, geez.
And Tamba, if I remember correctly, it was something like diabetes.
Yeah, I think that was like years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite. Yeah, he's been gone for quite some time.
Yeah.
But the guys well before their time.
Yeah.
Well, but I remember Hoshino was frequently the tag team partner of either Tiger Mask or Tatsumi Fujinami. Mm-hmm. He was kind of like this stoic little guy, little dude who just had a lot of fire in him, and one of those guys you could never, push on top. But he was too good to ever just have him be on bottom either. He fit in nicely in between. It sounds like he had a nice long career with New Japan.
He always seemed to carry the match too, like his end of the match. Because Tiger Mask just came in and did his high spots. That's pretty much all Tiger Mask.
He came and did the high spots, or he came in to rescue Hoshino.
And Hoshino was the one that was doing most of that.
Yeah, that guy was a little fireplug of a worker.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, and I heard he's a pretty tough little sucker, too.
He kind of looked like one of those little guys that get into fights and shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. Almost like there's probably an attitude there, like, hey, I'm little, but you can't mess with me. I remember one of the first anecdotes I had ever heard about him, and I heard this, in fact, probably just a few months before I ever saw him on tape, was there was a wrestler here named Ron Pope here in California, who 70s fans will remember as the Mighty Zulu. He was one of these bodybuilders who had a really good look to him, looked really good, but once he started wrestling, he just did not have it at all. Uh-huh. Yeah, really, and my friend Lloyd and I actually got to know him a little bit when he wrestled in Bakersfield, and was a really nice guy, too, at least friendly to us. I know he had a bit of a rep in the business for getting into fights in the dressing room and stuff, but was always friendly to us, but just did not have it. And somehow he actually got to tour Japan in '83, and the tour lasted less than one match because I don't know who he teamed with, and I think they had him under a hood as something like Silverhawk. And he was wrestling Fujinami and Hoshino. And I guess he was stiffing Hoshino really bad. And Hoshino, I guess, got pissed and actually fought back. And if you saw how big Ron Pope was, you'd either say Hoshino was either foolish or very brave.
Or nuts.
Yeah, or nuts. Maybe a little bit of each. Yeah. Maybe all three. But apparently he tried to hang in there, and Pope was, bigger and tougher than he was. But apparently Fujinami saw what was going on and just got in the ring and just started wailing on Pope and just stretching him. And in the middle of the match, Pope just got out of the ring, ran, grabbed his stuff, got dressed, and disappeared and went back to the States that night.
Wow.
And I'm trying to remember who the journalist was for one of the Japanese magazines. Yeah, I remember them writing, Ron Pope is the worst wrestler ever sent here.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah, worst wrestler ever to cross the seas.
he can't be the worst after what some of the guys they've gotten lately. So
I'm sorry.
He can't be any worse than some of the guys that they've been getting lately. So
yeah, he is pretty bad.
A lot of U.S. guys. There's been some pretty bad U.S. wrestlers that have gone there lately.
Really?
Well, I mean, you're not going to get like all these really good workers all the time.
No. Well, in fact, I guess that's one of the things that was so surprising back then about Pope getting the tour was, back then today there's so many promotions, almost anybody can go to Japan.
Was he worse than the Gaspar twins, those two big guys? Remember the Gaspars?
Oh, the one where one of them was Bob Orton?
Yeah, and I think the other one was really bad or something.
Oh, he was worse.
They were both bad. Yeah, I think they were both bad, weren't they? Because Bob Orton wasn't really good. Wasn't trying.
He wasn't that good. I don't think he was terrible, but I thought
one of them was really bad, right?
Yeah, one of them was really bad.
Okay.
The gimmick was really... I mean, I could never think of a blander gimmick than the Gaspar twins. And what a name.
Was it? What was it anyways? What was there, like, what was it? There's always something behind the characters. It
was weird. They had these really bland masks and these almost like frilly clothes. Like, it sounded like somebody came up with an idea, like, let's have some masked pirates.
Yeah.
But they didn't take the time to have a costume made properly. They said, put a mask on him and a frilly shirt, and we'll call them the Gaspars for no reason.
They should have hired Pirata Morgan to do it.
I'm sorry?
They should have Pirata Morgan do that gimmick with the pirates.
Oh, that would have been bitchin'. Yeah. Pirata Morgan is somebody who is really underutilized in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool that All Japan used him in '84. Oh, gosh, I know I say this over and over again, but I watched that match with him and Tiger Mask, the Misawa version of Tiger Mask. What a flawless...
Well, there's so many guys like La Fiera and all those guys who were really good. There's another guy got killed.
Yes.
Murdered.
That's true.
What's all these guys getting murdered? There's too much murder in this world now.
Oh, there really is.
Stop murdering wrestlers.
I know. I almost want to start a movement. I'm almost for illegal immigration because I want to bring the luchadores over here to the States where they might be a little safer.
Yeah, so they don't get murdered.
Exactly. I agree with you totally.
Let's start our own campaign. We'll do it. We'll have like celebrities do a commercial and talk about stop killing wrestlers.
I love that idea.
Well, come on, they're doing so much about concussions and all that. Why don't we do something about
totally. I mean, can't you see Danny DeVito getting there on TV saying, do a good thing, bring these talented men back to the States?
Yeah, sure, they're Mexican. Come on, get over it.
Yeah, exactly. Mellow out.
They don't want to be doctors or lawyers. They just want to be wrestlers.
Exactly. Man, I remember Stuka was here in '93. He was undocumented. He was the greatest thing on the indie scene in summer of 1993, and I would have given him.
What did he do to have to go back to Mexico?
I have no idea.
He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything illegal.
I don't think he did.
Oh, wow.
No, he was hanging. He came here and was staying with his family, and family who lived here. Oh man, when you saw that guy in the ring.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Oh, what a great wrestler. I wanted to get him booked on one of the AAA shows, and that's how I found out he was undocumented or illegal, however you wanted to say it, was because, Ron Skoller would not book anybody unless they were documented.
Oh, come on, geez.
I know. Well, I'm going to say it was just for sheer legal reasons.
Yeah.
Wrestling promoters would hire anybody, documented, undocumented, felons, criminals, terrorists, if they could hire them cheap, most promoters would.
Yeah.
But Skoller was doing everything by the books, and I'm certain didn't want any pesky IRS agents finding these things out.
Yeah, the bad thing is in business, you can't really do everything. You can't do everything legally.
Excuse me, especially in wrestling.
Yeah, you got to do a little bit of illegal stuff.
Oh yeah, especially back, 90s. It was getting more, incorporated and, somewhat by the books. But there were wrestlers who, how do I put it? Promoters would use him even though they probably shouldn't have. I mean, Chris Colt was one of my favorite wrestlers, but I know that the promoters were paying him under the table and not putting it up for their taxes because Chris Colt never had a Social Security number.
But he's American too, right?
He was American. Yeah. No, the only other, the only jobs he had were jobs where he could be paid cash. And I mean, he wrestled
was he paranoid or something?
No, he was just kind of a wild child. He was a fascinating character. He's somebody somebody should write a book about. I always describe him as a more rock and roll hippie version of Dr. Jerry Graham. I've been told that aside from wrestling, the only jobs he did were in the 60s. He did like nude modeling for gay magazines, and then as well known, he did some gay porn in the 70s. But other than that.
Other than that, he was a great guy.
Well, gay porn and nude modeling, he could still be a great guy.
Yeah.
But it sounds like everything he did was under the radar, under the IRS's radar. And I bet you he's not the only wrestler to have ever lived that way.
Well, the funny thing is, like, the government, they wouldn't be upset about all that other stuff, but, you didn't pay your taxes.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You're a drug addict. Oh, no, but you didn't pay your taxes. That's illegal. That would have been the one thing they would have been upset about. Like, everything else would have been fine. Like, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, I bet you they'd be a little, less upset about undocumented workers if they could get taxes out of their pay.
So why did Stuka just left because he was illegal, basically?
Yeah, I don't even know how long he was here. I think he was on the scene for 4 or 5 months, and I assume he just went back home.
Man, didn't he go to prison for a while or something?
I think he did in Mexico. I know that he told one of the wrestlers, Thunder Machine, they were talking, and he said that that's why he kind of, excuse me. Oh, need a sip of water here. I apologize.
Oh.
But, pardon me. No, he was telling another wrestler, a guy, Thunder Machine, that his career kind of went off the tracks because, he had a drinking and drug problem, and I think he ran afoul of the law somehow.
Yeah, because I think he disappeared again, like later on.
He had a really huge push in the 80s.
Yeah.
Was here in the 90s. The first thing I remember about him, aside from his absolutely fluid wrestling, was he had a forehead like Abdullah the Butcher.
Most of those guys have that, though.
Oh, he had it more than most wrestlers I've seen. I mean, he just looked like he was gig happy.
Oh, we got to call her, Kurt.
Who do we have on the line?
Well, let me see if he gets on.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Larry.
Is this Larry?
It's Larry. Hey, how you guys doing, man?
Doing really well. How you doing, my friend?
I'm all right. Now, I just wanted to call in real quick just to say hi. And, the scene's been kind of crazy lately.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's been going on, my friend?
Well, without mentioning anybody's names, there are several people that are have displayed unprofessional behavior in the locker room, and now promoters don't want to use certain people anymore. And the reason why I called in is because I just wanted to tell whoever's listening to be professional at all times. Whatever locker room you're at, be professional at all times. No reason to be unprofessional. There's, you got to control your tempers. You got to act professional, and there's, otherwise you just blacklisted yourself. And,
this is very true. This is very true. I mean, even though wrestlers can often act childish, very in the file. Me, I sound stoned right now, I think, as I'm stumbling over my own words, even though I'm stone cold sober. Yeah, even though wrestlers have a reputation of acting childish at times, that's no excuse to actually act childish. Especially there's so many indie promotions going on here in Southern California, and I know not everybody's going to work together in harmony, but let's get along and be mellow.
Exactly, and what workers don't know is promoters do talk to each other, and promoters do kind of watch each other's backs. That's why you won't see certain people on certain shows, and you might see them on one show, but you won't see them on another. There's, like I was saying, there's one incident in particular that happened last Friday at Mach 1 Wrestling, where this one young man who actually worked for us at NPW was upset, and he let everyone know about it to a point where he actually interrupted the broadcast. Now,
oh dear!
If you're upset, hold it in and then talk about it afterwards, after the show. Don't let everybody and their mother know that you're upset. There's no reason for that, without getting too deep into locker room.
It's really funny you say that. I was listening to an interview on NPR with Michael Caine on the show Fresh Air, and he said something along those lines that I wish I had written it down because the way he phrased it was so on the spot. He said that when he was very young in his acting career, he was on a movie set where he fell off a horse and everybody was laughing, and he lost his temper and started screaming at everybody. And then he said the director, a guy named James Clavell, took him aside, said, let's go have a cup of tea. And Clavell told Michael Caine, listen, anger is an extremely important emotion, and it's something you should never share with strangers.
Exactly.
And when somebody does something like this in the dressing room, you're doing nothing but making a fool of yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're angry at a promoter, like you said, Larry, wait until there's a time you can talk with him. And even then, don't blow up. Let him know you're pissed, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all human. We all get angry. I mean, none of us are immune to that. But yeah, you're right. There's a right way and a wrong way of doing things, and there's a professional way and an unprofessional way of doing things. So I just thought that was interesting. A life lesson that every young worker in the business should learn. Otherwise, you gain a bad reputation. I've seen too many guys who are really extremely talented gain bad reputations for stupid things like this. And it's unfortunate because they're really talented and they should showcase their talent. But, attitude, Teddy Hart, for instance.
And it really shows in these days, because I remember I first started wrestling in the early 80s, and, I never wrestled anywhere big time. I was, a very proud indie geek for years. But one of the differences I notice today is a lot of the wrestlers in general have their feet planted more firmly on the ground than back then. I met a lot of guys who took the fact that they were wrestlers way too seriously and were a bit delusional and talked a lot of shit and, had a lot of bravado in them. And most of the guys I see today just seem a lot more down to earth. And so if you are one of those guys with a lot of bravado and, try to be a big shot and think you're really cool by blowing up at people, you're just making yourself look like a clown.
Exactly. Yeah, I just thought I'd share that, without mentioning names, I just thought I'd share that so people could listen.
Very cool. That's a good way to go about it. Oh, actually, by the way, I'm kind of glad you called in because something that I watched and Fredo watched, I saw you mention on your Facebook, was the Miz versus Jerry Lawler the other night.
Right.
I loved that match.
It was a good match. Now, I haven't always been a fan of the Miz. He's starting to grow on me a little bit now. But no, that was a really good match. It was a really good story, and Raw's actually watchable again. And
the thing that struck me about this match, and like I said, the older I get, the more interesting, the more I'm reverting back to my childhood, where I went to see, I'm not interested in the wildest high spots. One, it just freaks me out seeing people accumulating too many injuries at too young an age. But this was a match that proved that you can barely even take a bump and still get over.
Exactly.
I mean, this was high on the heels in The Miz and Alex Riley, who are both awesome heels, especially The Miz. Mm-hmm. And Lawler was old school Jerry Lawler. And even when he fell off the ladder, he landed on his feet first. I'm sure a lot of people say, oh, that was kind of a lame bump. It still worked. He was still over. The crowd loved him.
Exactly. Well, it was a great match. That was one of the best. That was the best match I've seen all week, to be honest.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. And great to see somebody like Lawler. I'm sorry, what was that?
We got to see Jerry Lawler beat up Michael Cole. What more can we ask for?
Hey, I was going to keep my mouth shut about that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was like the highlight right there. I was like, oh, great. They're punching Michael Cole in the face. That's the greatest thing I've seen this week.
And you know what? That was so brilliant because I think everybody wanted to see Michael Cole get punched. I mean, even people like Brian Alvarez want to see Michael Cole get punched. WWE is doing the great. I mean, I don't know how long this has been planned. I don't know if this is something they've been winging week by week. But nobody has touched Michael Cole until Monday night. And, whether consciously or unconsciously, they milked this heel who is getting gradually more obnoxious every week. And finally, when Lawler punched him, that place went crazy.
It did. Well, they went crazy a couple of weeks ago when JR took his cowboy hat and slapped him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, they built it up beautifully. It started with a slap and progressed to a punch. The people's appetite was whetted to see more Michael Cole butt kicking.
Exactly. I will say, Michael Cole. It pains me to say this, but he's a good heel.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
That is.
Real quick, I wanted to talk about some of the good young talent. There's one in particular I think is good. I mean, he's going to be good, and hopefully Lucky Pierre will get a chance to work with him. Is Pretty Peter Avalon.
Lucky Pierre would be so honored to wrestle Peter Avalon.
Yeah.
I got to look at him on NWA TV. Really enjoyed watching him. And I know Lucky Pierre would dig it. If only Lucky Pierre could speak.
Exactly.
The only thing Lucky Pierre knows how to say is, wow! It's the only word he knows, and he stole it from Judo to Gene LaBelle.
Right. Exactly.
So,
I just wanted to say hi to you guys and just mention that real quick, and because I got some things to do. But I had to give you guys a call before.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's always great to hear from you. Always great to hear from any of the MPW aficionados. And really looking forward to January 30th in Simi Valley.
Yeah. January 30th is going to be awesome. Tammy Sitch will be there, and you'll see some more surprises. And announcements are coming real soon. Ryan Taylor is going to defend his belt. So we'll find out who soon. I mean, I'm sure it'll be a great match. And hey, congratulations to Taylor for winning the MPW title.
Yes, in a very, very good match.
Yes, it was. All right, good gentlemen. Good talking to you.
Okay, thank you for calling in, Larry, and we shall speak to you soon.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I totally forgot about that one Peter Avalon match that I saw on NWA.
Yeah, that wasn't one of the squashes, was it?
No, it wasn't one of the squashes.
Because I remember there's so many squashes on there that it's like, okay.
There are. Yeah, and I'm kind of mixed on the squashes on there. I think it's kind of it's funny. Again, I can be really picky, and I don't want to get overcritical, or not overcritical, but do this piece-by-piece critique. But there's some aspects of the show I really like. I love some of the throwback stuff like squashes.
But you know what I think it is? I think this is just my opinion from like a lot of the guys I talk to locally.
Mm-hmm.
I think their way of thinking of a squash match is WWE type of squash match, from like the 80s.
Oh,
Whereas,
okay.
Remember WCW and the NWA? They always had competitive squashes. It wasn't like a right away like type of, the guy would actually throw in some offense, but the guy would always end up getting killed. Like Terry Funk versus Eddie Guerrero was a squash match basically.
That was a classic squash.
It was one of those like 7-8 minute matches where Eddie actually got some offense and everything. And I think that's what people are kind of like more. They kind of want to see that instead of the WWE style squashes where it's like the guy just beats the shit out of the guy and that's it.
Yeah.
But that's what I've kind of been noticing with them.
Yeah, that's true. Potential there, I definitely have to, but I think we're all in agreement. The commentating is probably the weakest part on the show.
Yeah. The other thing about the Miz that I told you about earlier was that he was on the BS Report with Bill Simmons. Oh
yes, tell us about that.
Oh well, they just talked about the real world basically. That's all they were talking about, and then like how all this for some reason Bill Simmons he's a wrestling fan going back to 1979, and he couldn't remember Chris Jericho was WWE champion.
Oh really?
Jericho's held at the like at least three or four different times, hasn't he? Held the WWE.
Yeah, even I know that.
Yeah, and he's like really, because the Miz is like, yeah, he's held it a couple of times, and then and he's like, really? And I'm like, dude, seriously, what big name hasn't held a world title in WWE in the last, who's young in the last 5 or 6 years? Because everybody pretty much, if you're a star, you're pretty much going to get a world title run in WWE.
Yes. Well,
So,
perhaps that's why he doesn't remember it. So many people get the belt.
But still, you don't. How often do you watch WWE?
Not that often, but you're right. Even I knew that.
Yeah, that's like one of those things. And the other thing during the interview, he's asking the Miz this. I guess the Miz brought up how he used to carry around this toy belt with him, and then Bill Simmons brings out this word. I don't even know if I could pronounce it. Juxtaposed.
Juxtaposed.
Yeah, and it just stopped. It just stopped Miz. Like Miz was like, he had no idea what he was talking about. And I was like, what the, like it just like you got to listen to it because it's just like it stops him all of a sudden. Like the interview just changes like to like this weird like he just like he just froze like.
I'm picturing an episode of that show Reba where her son-in-law is throwing the word juxtaposed and he just kind of smiles.
Yeah, sometimes like writers become like interviewers. They kind of like to use big words, and they don't realize a lot of us don't know all these big words.
Oh no, it's true. It's true.
Juxtaposed. I was telling Mark Cole, I go, I've never used that word in my life. I go, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised he doesn't know what it is. I've never used that word.
There were scores of words I didn't know until I heard them used in an odd situation, and in each one I pretend like I knew what it meant, and
yeah, you just move on. You're just like, oh.
Yeah, I move on, and then I'd of course find the dictionary or a thesaurus and try to find out what it was that I was looking at. You know,
the worst thing is like when it's a joke and they use a word you don't know, and you just go with it, and like the person's laughing, and you're just like you have to like laugh because you don't know you didn't really know what he meant or anything. You're like, fuck, I'm totally fucked right here.
Oh, there was some really awesome short story. Oh, who was the author who wrote it? It was like turn of the 20th century, and it was how do you say? It was this women's social club that were really intellectual, and they were just really snooty and snobby, and one of the there's one woman there who just can't stand the rest of the women, think they're just so above everything. So she makes up a word called Xandu, Xandu, and she brings it up, and none of the other women want to admit that they don't know what it means.
So it becomes the word.
Yeah, so there's this whole conversation about Xandu, and none of them know what it is, but they carry on this lengthy conversation about how important Xandu is and how wonderful it is without ever, realizing there is no such word.
Oh God, that's hilarious. Well,
or the Zingu. I'm forgetting. Zingu or Zandu?
You know, the weirdest thing is, like, the interview, basically he couldn't remember, Bill Simmons couldn't remember Jericho winning the belt, but he could remember, like, he could remember every cast member of the Real World, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
That's
He's like,
funny.
I'll admit, like, the first 5 or 6 years of the Real World, I would watch almost every season. But, I mean, I gave up on that show, like, right away. It was like right after that. I think The Miz was the last season I ever watched.
Oh, how funny.
Because he was so over the top. Did you ever see him on that show?
No, I never did.
It looks like, and it's true, because he was talking about how when they were doing their show, they actually had, their problems were basically stuff that was, like, between them. And nowadays it's all about drinking and all this partying and all this other stuff. He's like, it's not the same thing as that when we were doing it. And, you know, it's true, because, like, the last couple, I saw the season right afterwards, and it was just about them drinking and, you know, getting in trouble and, you know, let's get drunk and getting...
Kind of just a one-dimensional thing.
Yeah, whereas you know, real problems, you know, like somebody's father is, like, ill or something, or somebody's racist, you know.
Yeah, there's some there's these multi-layers of communication and miscommunication going on. And when it's just surrounded about people just running out and, I mean, you might as well have it be the Ultimate Fighter where, you know, everybody just kind of hangs out and gets pissed at each other.
Yeah, so he was talking about, and then he talked about his promo, because remember how he put down JBL, Roddy Piper, and all these people?
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about how in WWE, he was always an outsider, because he came from the Real World, and everybody, like, that's all they thought of him as being
interesting.
You know, the guy from Real World, and he was coming into the wrestling business, and he's like, and WWE is so, like, you know, they don't really like outsiders coming into their, you know, their fraternity or whatever it is.
Yes,
and
it's a tight fraternity.
It's true, because you hear a lot of, like, guys from Mexico and all these other guys who are a little bit oddballish, kind of, go to WWE and they don't do certain things the way that they do it, and they're always, like, put down, you know, like the handshake thing and all that stuff.
Oh, very much so.
And, you know, like,
I think it's always been there a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I think years ago it was more you were either in the wrestling fraternity or not in the wrestling fraternity. And if you were an outsider who was getting a push too early, or if you were in wrestling because you had celebrityhood from some other, you know, other venue, they kind of look down upon you, where today it's like, even if you come from another wrestling territory and go into WWE, they're like a whole wrestling universe into themselves, not to use their catchphrase or anything, but no, it's true.
I remember that story about, who was that guy that passed away recently? The guy who was trained by Shawn Michaels, Lance Cade.
Oh, yes.
Remember how they were talking about how everybody was upset because he didn't go over and kiss Shawn Michaels' ass over having a great match. You know, sometimes these guys don't think about. I would imagine you don't think about that stuff all the time. I mean, I don't know.
I wouldn't too. It's almost like you'd have to have some sort of a primer before you went to WWE and worked there to know the do's and don'ts. You have to know the etiquette. Because I remember a few years ago, Conan was saying something similar to that. He went to WWE a couple of years back, and he said something like Rey Mysterio asked him, did you remember to shake so-and-so's hand? Did you say hi to so-and-so? And it's like there's this whole line of people that you have to have these niceties with, you know.
You're going to wear out just shaking everybody's hand.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get worn out just knowing whose hand you have to shake before you relax, or you know.
Do you have to shake the Divas' hands too, or?
I have no idea. I have never been inside a WWE.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. I'm telling you, we should go to a WWE event, and I'll do the germaphobe gimmick, where I won't shake anybody's hand. That should be like somebody's gimmick, like, oh, dude, I'm germophobic. Like, I can't shake everybody's hand. Sorry, guys.
Or what we could do is you could shake a hand, and then we could take out a little bottle of Perel and sanitize your hands.
Yeah. Could you imagine if you were a germaphobe in wrestling? That would be, like, the hardest thing to do. Like, you know,
wrestling is not a business for germaphobes, with the exception of Mike Sharp.
Yeah, that would be so hilarious. Like, you'd be fine during the wrestling match, but then you can't shake hands.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think back, like, all those times I wrestled at the various gyms, whether it was at Gill's or Hawaiian Gardens or at the police boxing gym by Dodger Stadium. If I was a germaphobe, I wouldn't last it, because not only were they very unclean, but there were no showers at these places either.
Remember that one time Aguila wanted to shake her hands after he peed?
Yes. I forgot about that.
I was going to give him like one of those knuckle punches. Like, hey,
that was so funny. That was like something almost rehearsed for a Saturday Night Live skit. Yeah. That was so funny.
Yeah, because remember he just looked at me and he wiped his hands on I think it was his shirt or something. Like,
yes.
I was like, dude, you just peed, man.
Next to the famous bucket of piss at Arena Perro Aguayo.
I'm not the type of person who isn't afraid to tell somebody I'm not going to shake his hand because he pissed, you know.
Yeah.
I'd probably end up getting killed at a wrestling show, but you know, I'm not afraid to say that, you know.
Yeah, it's good I'm not a germaphobe, because I would have had an anxiety attack by my third year being an indie wrestler. But I guess Mike Sharp, the
he
one
had all that
in
hair too. Come on.
What's that?
He had all that hair too.
Yeah, but no, apparently he would take forever after a match to shower. He would like thoroughly clean himself. Like he apparently was a germaphobe to the extreme. And actually, I'm impressed he was able to stay in the business for so long.
You know, that's another one. What if he didn't like taking showers? You know, there's a lot of people who don't like taking public showers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I heard of some people. I have heard of like the opposite of a obsessive compulsive, where people will only shower like once a week because for some reason they hate. Yeah, I've heard it. Seriously, I have heard of it.
All right, let's hope they're not in wrestling.
I knew somebody once who there were several roommates in an apartment, and they finally dragged one of the roommates into the shower and stripped him and shoved him into the shower just because he would reek so badly.
Let's hope he's not in wrestling. Or
no, he's not in wrestling. No, this was from...
Do you want to name that person?
No, I do not.
That's local.
Not that anybody would know who it was, because it wasn't a wrestler. I have heard of some wrestlers on the road years and years ago who would, bathe every other day, which is bad enough if you're a wrestler, and, other guys would have to lock up with them and smell them and just, Not for me. We've come a long way, baby.
I always assume guys are carrying deodorant with them, so.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the majority of wrestlers I met are pretty cool, are fairly up to normal standards as far as grooming go and that kind of thing, but you'll occasionally have your eccentrics in one direction or the other, from grimy to too neat.
Have you ever known a wrestler who won't wrestle another one just because he smells?
No, I'm sure it's happened. It's had to have happened. And the wrestler who refused to wrestle, I bet you, was somebody who had the clout to say, I won't wrestle this person.
Here's another question I have that I was going to ask Dave Meltzer.
Mm-hmm.
Has there ever been an albino wrestler?
Good question. I cannot recall one myself, but if anybody out there is listening and you know the answer, let us know.
These are the types of things that are in my head, Just so
that's a very curious question.
I'm supposedly the normal one on the show.
And would never wrestle on outdoor shows during the day.
That would be a good gimmick, like an albino wrestler.
That would be pretty funny, yes. I would dig that. That would be so cool, actually.
Yeah. We need to find like an albino and have him wrestle. Just train him.
That could happen. Johnny Legend would be proud.
Yeah. Johnny Legend can come up with a name.
On that note, I think we have to wind it up.
Yeah, you got to wash laundry.
I've got laundry to do. I've got things to write.
Your internet's back on. You're gonna go watch porn, huh?
Let's see if my internet. Before we leave, let's see if my internet's back up. It's up. It's up.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
I'm out of here.
I've got internet again.
I'm done. Oh. I'm going to go on Facebook now.
Oh, they say I've got mail, too. I've got mail. Oh.
Okay. I didn't even know people still had that. Is that AOL?
Yes, that's AOL. So Cooking.com says last chance to save on Rachel Ray Potlucker. Amazon.com says, I have huge savings on the hottest toys. Sweet Romance says, Christmas bells are ringing. Yes.
No penis enlargement?
Let's see. Penis. No penis enlargements.
See, they kind of cut back on those now.
Yeah, I get a lot less of those nowadays, you know?
Nowadays I get a lot of Spanish spam.
For a while I did get some that said, Kurt, exciting news. We can hook you up with other senior singles in the area.
Oh, God, that sucks.
I know. That made me feel 20 years older than I am.
You know what?
It made me feel unloved also.
You know what I got recently? You know those spam mails that you get that are those like the African person that's going to send you money.
Oh, the Nigerian scam letter.
Yeah, that. I got one in Spanish.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, it's in Spanish. Like, because I'm in like, I don't think it was Mexico, it was some other part of Latin America. Mm-hmm. And it was like, he was telling me he would send me $3 million dollars, and I was like, holy shit.
Oh my gosh.
In Spanish. It was really well written too.
Oh, how funny. Yeah, I was going to say, because the Nigerian scam letters, I love how they'll be grammatically incorrect to comical lengths. And
did you ever hear about that one guy who actually answered to that one? And, like, I guess they sent him money, and then they never found that guy again.
What?
Yeah, there was a big story. Like, they said that he got an email from somebody that would send him money.
Uh-huh.
And I guess he said yes, and all of a sudden he noticed somebody sent money to his bank account. But then
somebody actually sent him money?
Yeah, because I guess he did do it.
What a trip.
And then, like, I guess somehow he wanted to give it back because he didn't want it. Because he started getting phone calls or something.
That is so bizarre.
And then, like, they never found that guy again. Like, I guess, like, he went outdoors one day because he lived, like, on a hill or something, and they never found him again.
Oh my gosh.
It was like on one of those 48 hours type specials.
That's like one of those stranger than fiction stories.
Yeah. I was like,
wow. I've heard of tons of people who fell for the scam and got ripped off, but I've never heard of somebody actually being sent money.
I never thought about even answering those things.
No, neither have I. There are some people who actually have messed with their heads and have written back. There was one guy who had a great email saying, yes, I want to transfer the money to you. I am a surgeon here in L.A., and I will transfer the money, but I have to give a talent, I'm a surgeon, and I have to give a talent implant to Ben Affleck tomorrow.
Oh, God.
And then the person, obviously, English is their second language, so they're writing back saying, oh, yes, good luck with your talent implant. When can you send the money?
Oh, God.
But there are several different sites that have some hysterical accounts of people messing with the scam letter writers.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Google now. You can actually find, like anything, like whether it be that, spam email, or if you're doing, like, some sort of business.
Mm-hmm.
You go on Google and you'll just find a review or a report, and you'll figure out what's going on with all that stuff.
That's true, yes. Or
even like a computer virus, you could just look for that to find it.
Yeah, or frequently you'll get some sort of mass political or commercial emailing where they'll say, beware, this has happened to a friend of mine, and they'll talk about some, incident that sounds like an urban myth of some kind.
Yeah.
And you can Google and, write the subject matter and then write urban myth, and you can find whether it's one of those frequent urban myths that are sent all the way. One of the ones that sticks to mind was a couple of years ago, I got all these emails that said years ago when Oliver North was on trial that he predicted that Osama bin Laden was going to do all the brutal things he did. And it was a complete myth. He'd never done it, but it sounded so reasonable, and the way it was phrased, and a lot of people just buy that stuff hook, line, and sinker. And whenever I get a forwarded email, I usually know that it's about something bogus.
Yeah, because I get some stuff that I'm like, wow, this is kind of like, it might be legit. But then I just go, you just type in the subject onto Google, and you'll find that there's like 20 or 30,000 pages on it on how it's a scam or something.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and they are plentiful out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I'm guessing some of those are wrestlers doing it.
Wrestlers, bodybuilders, all those people in those uncouth organizations.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we should wind up the show. Time for me to go do all my other. Time for me to get busy here.
Okay.
A lot of laundry to do, a lot of writing I got to get done. So we will be back in 2 weeks on Thursday. And thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of myself and Alfredo Esparza, just want to say, remember, if you're walking down a Southern California street and you see a bright light shooting across the sky, it is not a shooting star. It is a heavenly handful of Moncell's powder. See you in 2 weeks.